Sup, my dudes, Valkyrie. One of the most asked questions I get: what is my Albedo build? Because people see me shitting out damage with him. Well, Albedo is extremely easy to build. Whenever you're discussing your Albedo build, like my Albedo is not built very well, but he's a very strong unit and he's very fun to throw on any team because he makes it where you can really run any DPS. Case in point, level 5 to Luke. My talent, let's go into talent levels real quick. First, I'm going to explain his kit. Normal attacks don't really matter for him. You're not really using him as a primary DPS, so we can just ignore this entirely. Now, here's the big wall of text. I'm going to not read all of this because this is going to take forever for this to read. I'm going to sum it up in a TLDW, or TLDR. What it is he puts down a little flower in the middle, and it deals, and inside an AoE, anytime somebody takes damage within 2 seconds, it generates a Transient Blossom. What a Transient Blossom is a giant geo damage AoE pop that hits pretty hard but scales with defense. And he can only generate one flower at a time. And then it has, if you stand in the flower, it has a little elevator that'll take you up and let you plunge attack people and make you feel like you're Shao, even though you're not really Shao. But it's mostly a gimmick. You're never really going to use the elevator. If anything, it gets in the way more than anything. And then we get into his ult. What his ult does is it puts down a giant, it deals like a giant AoE in front of him, and he does like the snap. And if it's inside of the AoE of his flower, he generates 7 Fatal Blossoms that go boom and deal AoE damage as well. You can see this scales with attack. So now you're like, wait, he has one damage source that scales with defense, one damage source that scales with attack. How do I build him? Well, you build him just like a DPS. So I'm going to cover how to build him real quick. And first I'm going to cover my build. I have 2-piece Archaic Petra, 2-piece Gladiator. Do you need Gladiator? No. The only thing you need on him is 2-piece Archaic Petra, because without Constellation 2, which we'll get into in a little while, you do not need to worry about anything other than the Archaic Petra, because the rest of it does not matter. It's literally like, whose line is it anyways? He scales off trash artifacts. I saw a Cairo video where the best way I saw somebody describe Albedo is an artifact trash can. He takes really shitty artifacts like this and turns it into something great for himself. So we're going to look how I built him was crit rate, geo damage percent, and defense percent. You want to make sure that defense percent is there because most of his damage is going to come from him being off the field and dealing damage with E unless you have Constellation 2. Like I said, we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, you just want Archaic 2-piece Archaic Petra and the rest do not matter. Just throw whatever you got on him. Now, weapons. There's 2 weapon options that you really need to consider for Albedo. I saw people say Skyward Sword. I don't really agree with that. But Harbinger of Dawn, which is when HP is above 90%, increases crit rate by, I think it goes up to 28%, and the crit damage on it's really high too. This is one of his better options, but keep in mind that HP requirement for the passive. I do not like it because my Albedo, I do throw in a lot. He'll get clipped by something and boom, passive gone. I don't like that. I like consistency a lot more than that. That's a much better damage option than Festering Desire, but Festering Desire is a really, really, really good weapon for Albedo. Go figure, right? The weapon that releases with his event is one of his best weapon options. Base attack 510, energy recharge 45.9%, increases elemental skill damage by 32%, and elemental skill crit rate by 12%. You should 100% have this R5 by the end of this event. It's very, very strong for Albedo, and it's really meant for Albedo because it lets you have 12% crit rate and elemental skill damage at the same time. So we get into builds. You add in the crit rate. I'm at 59.4% crit rate, and then I have 72% crit damage, and we go to Geo, and I'm at 83.2%, and I haven't ascended him yet. He'll be at 90.4% once he gets the last ascendancy. I'm not in any rush to do that. The Shao comes first. We focus on Shao here. So now to get into the big part of his power and why a lot of people use Albedo and why they build him a lot different than me sometimes. Well, the main thing is his Constellation 2, which we'll get into. Transient Blossoms generated in Albedo's flower that he puts down. He's got really weird names. I'm just going to call them Flower and Ult. Regenerate 1.2 energy for Albedo. That's good, but he doesn't need it because his energy recharge is already so fucking high because he hits really hard and gets on the sub 50% energy particles really fast. And plus the RNG Geo particles he can generate, really, really high energy recharge because of the big AoE plops he can do. This is the big one. Transient Blossoms, generated by his flower, grant Albedo Fatal Reckoning for 30 seconds. Unleashing his ult consumes all stacks of Fatal Reckoning. Each stack of Fatal Reckoning increases the damage dealt by Fatal Blossoms and his ult, basically dealt by his flower. No, that's dealt by his ult, I'm sorry. Dealt purely by his ult, burst damage by 30% of Albedo's defense. This effect stacks up to 4 times. So this makes his ult scale with defense once you get C2. At C2, his build matters. His 4-piece matters. All that matters. I don't know what I would put on him because I haven't fucked with it. But there's a lot of other people that you can go see, and they'll probably give you better advice than I will. But I'm just letting you know that this is whenever the actual artifacts matter. And in the meantime, it's just 2-piece Petra and whatever else you want to throw on him. Does not matter. This one increases plunge damage by 30%. This whatever is like, oh, you got to get this for shy. You don't need. It's 30% more plunge damage, dude. You don't need it. It isn't nice, yeah, but you really don't need it. Let's be real. If active party members within an AoE are protected by a shield created by crystallized solar isotoma, increases their damage by 17%. That's strong. That's really good. You can see he's basically a pure support. He's not meant to be on the field. A lot of people like to try and make him a DPS or whatever. He's not meant to do that. He's meant to just... Let me show you the riveting Albedo gameplay. You ready? There you go. Now I'm using Albedo properly. And I would just attack enemies inside this giant AoE that he has. Anyways, guys, that's my Albedo game. That's my Albedo gameplay. That's my Albedo artifact setup. That's how I use Albedo. Hopefully, this little guide helped you guys out. This is all just my opinions. I don't think anything I said is like the best or whatever. This is just how I play him. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. Peace.